of
So you talk about your healing of your tumors and everything. Have you had a positive success story about somebody whose cancer went into remission or disappeared, such as yourself?
I actually do. A woman who came to see me, and without naming names, she had breast cancer and was very plugged into the system in terms of getting her scans every 3 months. And really, what I've come to notice as an outsider is that a lot of these appointments and follow-ups just kind of, it's like this noose around someone's neck that they feel as if, they're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so I worked with her and she did a psilocybin journey. And since then, she doesn't do her scan. She's stepped out, she's unplugged from that. And that's a personal decision. That is not something that I put upon her. She kind of came to that through channeling and coaching. And then her psilocybin journey was like, no, this is actually keeping me stuck in this sickness. And since then, she's unplugged and she's had a baby since then. So she was told she shouldn't have any more kids because it would make things worse. And she's given birth to a baby boy just recently and feels this freedom and vitality and connection to her body rather than feeling like her body has somehow betrayed her. I'm in my 30s. Why am I getting cancer? What did I do wrong? Or why is my body against me? And from our work together, she came to, a relationship of being in communion with her body, gratitude, trust in her body, and trusting that expresses illness or dis-ease are part of the healing process rather than this spiral towards death, which is what we're taught in Western medicine, that when you are sick, there's something wrong. My guide said to me once, I was feeling something weird over here. And I had this moment where I was like, And they said, when the human experiences something different or unusual in the body, why do they always assume something is going wrong? Perhaps something is going right. And that really stuck with me because we've all had that moment where something feels weird or we get this like intense shooting pain in our head or whatever it is. And you have that thought, oh my God, what's wrong? I hope I don't have a brain tumor. You go to this thought. And when the guides were like, maybe something's going right, maybe something's shifting to correct, and you feel something very unusual in your body. And they said to me, many then go seek advice or attention from a doctor, and the doctor's job is then to diagnose something, but they're literally just taking a picture of that moment in time. So it's like the ship is trying to right itself. It's in the process of healing, and in the process of healing there might be an expression that's unusual or painful, right, or concerning. But the minute the person gets the diagnosis, the thoughts and the fear around what the body's doing to me continue to perpetuate the dis-ease or lack of ease in the body.
All right. Well, that's very interesting. What did this person get from her mushroom journey that helped her get back on track with her cancer, her breast cancer?
Her grandmother came in and her journey, and I had recognized some of our early work in channeling
Was her
was,
grandmother deceased?
yeah, her grandmother was deceased. And part of her diagnosis was about the lack of nurturance from the female. So our breasts obviously represent nurturing. That's how we feed our young. And oftentimes, breast cancer is there's been a lack of nurturing either from the woman, the mother, or towards the self. And so she was very much craving a nurturing and that kind of wisdom, from someone in her family line. And so her grandma came in and just offered her so much love and told her, "You're going to be fine. You will be fine." And really gave her this message like, you're safe in your body and you have many beautiful years to come. And she just was bawling. She was in so much joy during her journey. And there was just so much profound healing that came in. And that was just a big game changer for her.
Awesome. Did you get to see the grandmother, or was that from her? Was that from her describing the encounter?
I visually did not see her grandmother, but she felt this wave of love come in. And she was actually, some people don't talk. She was very vocal during her journey. So it was like, "Grandma." So it was like, well, I knew it was her grandma right away. So she was very expressive and vocal during hers. But often it's kind of a mix where people talk a little bit, then they're quiet, then they cry, then they laugh. I had one person who didn't say a word the entire time.
Right.
And I was,
Was there interest or the soundtrack? I'm very fascinated with the soundtracks to these journeys. Did anything stick out to you about the soundtrack?
yes, one of the songs, interesting that you asked that. So one of the songs was a song related to her grandma that had come on. And I can't remember, I'd be lying if I just made something up because I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, the soundtracks are always interesting because I think you and I have talked about this before where I'm like, what? This is kind of a weird song to put on. And the playlists tend to be about 7 hours long. And so sometimes not every song is played. Let's just start there. And then I put it on shuffle so that the universe can kind of work together with what's going on. The universe knows what song should come next, of course. So I just allow that to happen. So never once have I put together a soundtrack that someone hasn't been like, "Oh my God, this song, blah," or whatever. And then it's such a great thing for them to have afterwards because, our brain is laying down memories and information and all kinds of things that we can't consciously retrieve or access on our own. But something like a smell or a song can just bring enough of it up to have that feeling of well-being again and that feeling of peace, even though you may not remember exactly what you were experiencing during the journey at that time. Those feelings of peace and well-being return to the system through those
Ah,
soundtracks.
so you've had a follow-up with these folks and they've shared that, yeah, now I listen to that song and I go back to the journey.
Right. Well, they go back, their body goes back to the feelings of peace or the feelings of well-being. It's interesting that many people don't remember the exact visuals and details, which is why I provide sort of that transcript of everything that occurred so that they can. It's like a baby book, right? So if you didn't have your baby book to like look back at the pictures of your Aunt Mary giving you those cinnamon rolls, you may not remember. You're just, "Oh, Aunt Mary was so sweet." Right? But then you lay down in your mind, "Oh, she always brought those good cinnamon rolls." But it's like you wouldn't have really remembered if it weren't in your baby book. And so it's a little bit of that thing where just having sort of the report afterwards, everybody reads it and it's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." You remember how you felt during most things, right? They always say a lot of times people won't remember what you said to them, but they will remember how you made them feel.
So this particular journey, um from the beginning, you have cancer and you're in a place where you're um not sure what your future lies. So it must have been pretty obvious what the journey was was going to be about. Have you ever, it could be this particular case, have you ever um, had the feeling we're going into this journey and this is what it's going to be about, but then something comes in and it's like, no, this is
Gosh, I sound like an asshole when I'm like, no.
okay.
uh,
So the homework going into the journey,
yeah.
pretty much the intentions and the no, that's not being an asshole. I should have known the answer to the question before I answered it, but I was curious whether, you know, the day I eat that chocolate bar, we know what our playlist is going to be, and we know what we're going to transmute or heal.
So here's the thing, John. When someone makes books that journey with me, then we begin an energetic dialogue, whether we're literally speaking on the phone or meeting in person. But my field and their field start communicating on these higher levels. And so I'll start getting glimpses of things. So I might get a glimpse of an abusive brother. I might get a glimpse of just deep sadness and like lack of self-worth. So the client might not come in and say, wow, I'm carrying deep sadness and, a low sense of self-worth, but I'm aware of it. And so they may, they, I think they're more surprised than I am because you're going into the journey to do psilocybin because you have blinders on. You've been unable to look at certain things and process certain things. So if everybody knew what they needed to work on, they probably would have worked it out before they got to psilocybin, right?
Oh
So
yeah,
for the most
sure.
part, I can see like, ooh, there's going to be some really big shit around the dad. Or like, oh my God, like, wow, there was some crazy abuse. And that hasn't come up, but I see that. And then the person might be caught off guard and like, wow, I hadn't thought of that since I was 6 or whatever. But I'm not caught off guard.
Do you
The,
put
the
kid gloves on, or do you let it flow? Or do you let it go right into that trauma?
After the psilocybin has brought it up, or
After,
when
right. So you're in it. You're in the psilocybin journey. They're not expecting it, but you've kind of felt this is where it's going to go. Do you ever put the brakes on, or do you let it flow?
I've never, so here's what I tell my client the morning before they eat the chocolate. Your higher self knows exactly what you're ready to experience. And if something becomes too uncomfortable, you will have the authority to pull yourself from that experience. And I've found that just giving that prompt to people, that level of I'm safe and I'm comfortable, whatever happens, I can pull out. I have had one person pull out. She did not like what she was seeing. And she was like, I went out, and she pulled herself out. So there was a level of pre-programming that goes in before the chocolate that you are going to be shown what you're able to handle. Your higher self is working with the plant medicine to show you what you are ready for. If it gets too uncomfortable, you can pull yourself out and be like, hey, not today. And like I said, I had one person who didn't see it all the way through. And I have 100% trust that had they written the whole thing out, they would have gotten to a sense of completion around that event. But there was just a lack of comfort in seeing, and it was tough stuff. And this particular person I knew a little bit more intimately than some of my other clients. And she has a strong will. And that will, she was very able to just be like, not doing it today. Now, since then, she has revisited and been like, ah, I'm so sad I didn't like ride that out. I'm doing it again. So that's only happened one time.
And has that second journey happened, or it's still
No, it
to be
has not
determined?
happened yet
Okay,
because she was with child and there were other things that she couldn't do that. So,
sure,
but
sure.
that will happen, I would say, within the next year. Um, so no, I'm not surprised. And here's the thing about people.
So you still kind of have free will while you're even on these journeys. So if you want to pull
Yeah,
out,
you still have free will, and there's a commonality in the wounds that we carry as people, and it's not being seen or loved or valued, and then the way in which that wound is received, right, is different. But the wound is, I don't see all that. We're more alike than different. We're just more alike than
yeah.
different. And the way in which that sort of plays out in people's lives is unique, but the wound is oftentimes very similar.
Well, I mean, if you're going to take soul contracts and numerology of Moses into it, there is a finite number of spiritual karmas, physical karmas that we encounter in as humans. So that commonality makes a lot of sense. It'd be pretty interesting study somebody who's into soul contract to kind of see how the spiritual and physical karma aligns up with healing of these wounds that they encounter in psilocybin journeys. I
Yeah.
digress.
No, that's interesting. It is interesting. It would be interesting. So I guess that you could do studies on it, and the way, how many ways in which the core wound of expresses itself, right? Wow. Um, and the ways in which it plays out in physicality is also interesting, because I had a client today, and what came in was a core wound around personal power and her solar plexus. And I mean, she has a hernia. She's got, probably going to resort to surgery on, and that core wound of standing in her personal power, I can see just lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of that being challenged. And here we are in this like distillation, right, of energy. And in this lifetime, will she be able to heal the many incarnations where this has been a presentation of a core wound?
Sure,
You
and
know,
you remind me of one that's very common that shows itself worthiness. Folks, have a issue with their own worthiness, and that plays itself out in many different ways. All right.
yeah.
Well, thank you. That I appreciate you talking about your journeys, and uh, I think we're going to explore your journeys because they're so fascinating, and your recollection of them is very remarkable too. It's certainly something you're very interested in, and something you want to grow as a journey practitioner.
Absolutely. I was speaking to a woman yesterday, just the ability and the rate at which I have seen people able to address the shadow and the wounds and then address it, right? Look at it, right? So, oh my gosh, this wound still exists. And to look at it, so, psilocybin is a dissociative medication, plant medicine. So you're looking at these events not as if you're in it, right? And so
Right.
don't get swept away with the emotion. Your higher self is observing it. And in the observation from this perspective, you can see the wound that exists in the perpetrator. So when you're able to see that this abuse or injury was caused by someone carrying their own injury and pain, the ability to access the healing powers of forgiveness for the perpetrator and yourself at this time is available in ways that it just wouldn't be. And so I'm so passionate about it because as someone who struggled with, I was held hostage and raped and found in a 7-Eleven and subsequently had a horrific eating disorder and had just lost a lot of authority over the way in which this pain it continued to express itself through my life so that I could look at it and heal it. And so something played out in over decades. And let me tell you, I mean, I went to therapists and tried so many different ways, self-help books and whatever, IFS, which is a model internal family systems, which is really powerful. And I was not able to access healing for myself until really full healing, until the guides really came in. And it was pretty incredible because my first channeled information from the guides was in 2004, and it was a book. And I knew that I couldn't publish this book. I knew it was a book for me to heal myself. And so that was 20 years ago. And that was the beginning of healing. But it's because I was able to access a part of myself that was above the pain, right? And so I'm passionate about it because I see so many people, most of us walking around with injuries, and we're trying to move past them. Our thoughts, we want to move past them. We desire it, but we're stuck. And this is just, I've seen it. It's like a fast train to healing. And I believe that everybody should have access to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's another great day.
Do you have anything you want to say before you go?
Well, I want to say, chase the joy. I want to say, seek the smile. And I want to say, do you, because the world's waiting for you. So go out there and make it a great day.